I regret to announce that this is my last episode of HBR News, and I will no longer be producing content on this channel. And I just thought I would let you guys know, so you guys
Is
can
anyone still
prepare.
falling for that shit? It's the most basic bitch April Fool. Right?
I know.
You gotta do better than
that. I wasn't really. I wanted to do something special, but I couldn't think of anything because I kind of suck at this. So, yeah.
And I really felt I should come in soon because a lot of people really still don't know what date it is, and they go, "What? No."
Yeah, I know. Well, anyway, this is HBR News number. I didn't even play the intro this time. I just jumped in. That's okay. Number 496, Homophobic Toddlers and Teenage Mutant Gender Turtles, where we discuss the news of the week and give it the Badger treatment. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show. Hope you guys are doing well this week and that you are trying to have like a decent April Fool's Day so that you're not consumed by it. I'm your host, Brian. I'm joined by, as always, my lovely co-hosts, Mike and Hannah. On today's HBR News show, we have a weird freaking show for you guys. I mean, you would think this is all a joke, but this is reality, which is the greatest joke of all. We'll be discussing the latest news regarding Ashley St. Clair. A 3 or 4-year-old is accused of transphobia and homophobia. New pronouns just dropped and more, so stick around. It's going to be a good time. And be sure to join us afterwards for the patron-only show. I did a makeup patron show last week, and I decided to talk about... I mean, we usually try to keep the patron shows a little bit lighter, so I decided to talk a little bit about this video that I watched, which is a video essay someone made about the Amazon television show called Invincible. And I mean, like, basically it's entitled How Invincible Deconstructs Masculinity. So I thought, oh yeah, this is definitely good, like, chum for the sharks. And we didn't get that far into it because we ended up talking a lot about like the hero archetypes and like what masculinity is in stories. And then of course this turned into a conversation about masculinity itself. But we will be continuing this video, How Invincible Deconstructs Masculinity, in the patron show. So please consider joining us on the patron show by going to feedthebadger.com/subscribe to become a member. $5 a month will get you into the Discord server, where you'll be able to watch all of the additional content, including the patron shows. And you can give it higher levels so you can actually be in the conversations itself and talk to us directly. And if you don't want to wake up one morning to find that we've been yeeted from the internet, please go to badgerfeed.com or honeybadgerradio.com. That is where our content lives. And lastly, I will ask, because I'm really bad about doing this, send us a message by going to feedthebadger.com/justthetip to send us a super chow. It's generally like a better way to send a super chat of some kind because, number one, we get most of the money. Number two, you get like way more characters to work with, so you can send a longer message. And number three, it's not likely to get censored because it's not going through YouTube's comment filtration system. So, and before we get into the stories, there was a super chow that I got yesterday that did not get read out because it came in after the show was over. So I'm going to go ahead and read that now. So the Great Indoors, I think it was not... Yesterday was Sunday. Tuesday, Monday. I think it might have been on Monday. I think. I don't know. The Great Indoors gave us $5 and said, there is a Dutch Netflix series called Hantjes. I don't care if I pronounce that right or not, which is about men struggling in this modern climate where women have more of a say. In the trailer, a woman suggests to start an open relationship, and of course, the man is having difficulty with this because he wants to, quote, dominate the relationship, end quote, and has, quote, repressed feelings of insecurity, end quote. This is according to the show's logic, not the man. I think this series has been introduced in various countries under different names. Well, it's worth looking at, but thank you for the super child, Great Indoors, and sorry that it came in after our show was over. So, yeah, we're not talking about... I know that like adolescence is still in the news because there's more stuff going on with it, but I think that we kind of like caught it early and we had our say about it. So I'm not gonna be talking about that. Although there is a related story today, sort of,
Yeah.
that we'll be getting to a little bit later. But first, with all that out of the way, let us get into today's stories. So first, we got this. And this is confirmed. There's video online and everything, in terms of like the events around it and the responses. So as of April 1st, 2025, not an April Fool's joke, Ashley St. Clair, 26-year-old conservative influencer, in theory, claims she gave birth to Elon Musk's 13th child in September of 2024 and has been embroiled in a public dispute with him over child support, which we covered on a previous show. She sold her $100,000 Tesla Model S, $100,000 Tesla Model S on March 29th, just a few days ago, outside her Manhattan apartment, telling reporters it was to offset a 60% cut Musk allegedly made to their son's support payments. St. Clair accuses Musk of reducing support in retaliation for her February 2025 announcement of his paternity and subsequent lawsuits for custody and a paternity test. Elon Musk responded on X, now not in the way that he had in the past, where he just said, whoa, he actually had something to say, claiming that he has paid her $2.5 million and provides $500,000 annually, despite not actually confirming paternity. And he claims that he is open to a paternity test. Ashley St. Clair fired back, calling him a petulant man-child and alleging he refused a paternity test before the child's birth. The feud has escalated online with no court-verified financial details yet public. Mike, we're getting a little bit of background noise from you. I don't know if you're playing with your...
Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry, I'm going to stop moving it now. I ain't saying she's a gold digger. But there are certain characteristics with which she ain't messing. You take my money! I'm in need! It's so difficult to sing that. Jamie Foxx.
You take my money and I'm in need.
That's the one. And I mean, that's not the real reason she's selling a Tesla, is it? It's because it's not safe to have a Tesla at this point in time. They're getting vandalized with piss and shit and vomit, not to mention getting burned and exploded left, right, and center. I mean, from the left, but indiscriminately when it comes to the owner. You could be a black, Mexican, disabled, lesbian, Muslim, otherkin, and a raging leftoid, and they'll still treat your Tesla like it's a German Panzer tank plowing across the Ardennes. This bitch is not only a quote-unquote conservative influencer, and those quotation marks are enormous and in bold and italic, but she's a conservative influencer who is allegedly given birth to the spawn of Satan, as far as these communist terrorists are concerned. It's by the grace of God, ironically, that her Tesla hasn't already been nuked from orbit. But given how many other quote-unquote conservative influencers made no hesitation in gushing over her and her decision to have this bastard child, she ought to be able to find a sucker somewhere who will give her millions of dollars for that car because of its historical significance. If there was a museum of hypocritical conservative simps, that car would be the centerpiece. It would be dangling from the ceiling in the lobby like that whale skeleton in the Natural History Museum. But then, of course, it would still be subject to terrorist attacks from the fuck you whale, fuck you dolphin crowd. Thank God no such museum will ever exist, because neither side will ever admit that conservatives worship women too. But yeah, it's obvious what's going on. She's selling it because she doesn't want to die in a car bomb. She's going to leave that up to someone else, but she's not going to miss the opportunity to call in the press and make a big deal of it and pretend she's doing it because Elon is a big, meanie, poopy head who has left her with no choice. She's jumping on the bandwagon. I mean, once upon a time, the Tesla was the bandwagon. But now she's jumping off of it and onto the next bandwagon, which is fuck Elon Musk. When I bought his car and stole his seed, I didn't realize he'd become public enemy number one by preventing the government from stealing billions of dollars from the public. I don't know how that even makes sense. But then again, I don't know how anything makes sense anymore. We've gone beyond upside down land at this point, and now we're in MC Escher land, like the impossible staircase at the end of the labyrinth. Up is down, up is also left and right, up is also forwards and backwards and spiraling through the fourth and fifth dimensions. Nobody knows where anything is or what anything is, and we're all fucked. It's a strange time to be alive, but I suppose it's a lucrative time to be commenting on what strange times we live in. To that, I will drink.
So I got to point out, if this was just about money, she wouldn't be publicizing it. She'd be in court. Maybe other people would be publicizing it, but she would just be doing what women do when it's just about money, right? She would be in court. She would be playing victim in the courtroom, and she would be making bank because that's what happens. Unless, of course, in the courtroom, the judge said no more child support until there is a paternity test, and then she would have to prove her case. That might not go so well for her. It might, but you never can be sure. Just because a woman says the father of her child is a particular guy doesn't necessarily mean that's the truth. Right? That happens all the time. And if this was really just about getting rid of the vehicle, right? Oh, she's mad at him. She's going to sell the car he gave her. Or she wants the money. She's going to sell the car he gave her. Or it's a dangerous car to have right now. So she's going to, again, she wouldn't have publicized it, right? She wouldn't have drawn attention to what she was doing. So there's two other things that this could be about. One of them is public attention, which is the most obvious because, if you publicize something, you get public attention for it. At least some, right? The other one is when a woman is scorned and a guy doesn't dedicate himself to her for the rest of her life after sleeping with her once or whatever happened. I've heard a bunch of different stories, including artificial insemination. Then she wants to humiliate him, right? She wants to punish him. How dare he not think she's the coolest thing that God ever created on this green earth? And of course, that's a distinct possibility too. She may be publicizing all of this out of sheer bitchiness to hurt him. But it's definitely not just about the money. Granted, that is a ton of money. And most of us live on about 10% or less of that. What she's getting regularly on an annual basis. Not even like what did he say he's paying like 500,000
500,000. It might be I don't think it's a month. But yeah, 500,000 a year, 500,000, $500,000 a year. That's crazy. That's just
even a year. That's crazy. But like I said, most of us live on.
Hey, Elon, I'm pregnant with your baby. You owe me money. Elon, I'm pregnant with your baby. I just want you to know, Elon Musk, I'm pregnant. You have to pay up. You have to step up and be a man.
Now I know what you're thinking, but what you're thinking is transphobic, Elon.
There you go. But my point is, she's clearly getting a shit ton of money. And that's definitely part of the reason for what she's doing, because obviously nobody goes for child support if they don't want money, But I would say that this is sheer bitchiness. This is actually my suspicion anyway. Is Ho's mad, and this is how she gets her revenge.
Yeah. Just a follow up. So yes, definitely he's responded. He said that he's doing his part. We will see if they like pursue further action. But what I want to know is, because we all know Elon's trying to repopulate the Earth like Genghis Khan. So if anyone has been holding on to this secret that they are actually carrying Elon Musk's baby, now is the time to step forward. Be brave. He will step up and do the right thing and pay you $500,000 a year. So just put one in the chat if you are pregnant with Elon Musk baby, is all I'm saying. It's us. We'll keep it confidential just between us. We'll put together an open letter, maybe have everyone sign on it like a petition and send it over to Elon Musk's office, because I think that, it's only right that a man step up and support his children and the people who carry his seed. So anyway, all right, is that if that's all? I guess we'll see where this goes, and we'll follow up with more information as the story unfolds, if there is anything else. But yeah, I'm with Hannah and Mike. I mean, Ashley St. Clair is trying to stay relevant. She's trying to make money. She lives in Manhattan. Do you know how much money it costs to live in Manhattan? She is doing fine.
A lot more than it costs to live in Dayton.
Exactly. She lives in Manhattan and she owned a Tesla. So yeah, I'm sure she's doing very well. But anyway, let us move on to the next story. Let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments. All right. Looks like a lot of people are carrying Elon Musk's baby, according to the chat. That makes sense. We're all pregnant. All right, so the numbers are in for the United Kingdom's Department for Education, and it shows something rather odd. Amongst the numbers for the academic year of 2022 to 2023, it states that 94 pupils faced punishment for so-called, quote, abuse against sexual orientation and gender identity, end quote. 10 of these pupils were no older than 7 years old, and one of them was no older than 4 years old. Unfortunately, for the records do not indicate the context behind these alleged abuses, and the school has not released any details either. A spokesman for the Department of Education, in the UK that is, said the following, quote, all pupils and staff should feel safe and protected at school and should never face violence or abuse. The Education Secretary has been clear that she expects school leaders to enforce good behavior, and we are committed to a comprehensive program of behavior support for schools, end quote.
It's the scene from Kindergarten Cop, isn't it? Some kids.
Boys have a penis and girls have a vagina.
Normally, a child that young might be, quietly admonished for saying that on the grounds that it's an inappropriate thing to say in kindergarten or whatever. Nowadays, they're punished for saying it because it's against the syllabus. You can't say that. It's like standing up and saying 2 + 2 is 4. That is not true, young man. 2 + 2 is whatever we say it is. And it is heteronormative and white supremacist of you to insist that it's 4. No, the cow does not say moo. It says whatever it wants to. It will not be compelled into speech against its will by misogynistic farmers who steal their milk. And no, it is not ABC. It is LGBTQQAAPP2+. And you better get it right, or that's a paddling. It was bad enough when we were kids, and we were so often told, because I say so, is valid reasoning. Nowadays, it's everything in reality is what I say it is because I say so. And it always happens to be exactly not what reality is. What is the point in going to school if the only thing they're learning is the teacher's fucked up Gnostic ideology where everything is bass backwards? And at what point do we call that abuse? What exactly did a 4-year-old do that counts as abuse against sexual orientation and gender identity? Pardon my balls, but I don't think 4-year-olds are even supposed to know what the fuck sexual orientation is. And if they are learning it from their teacher, then I think that teacher is abusing them. If it's in the school curriculum, then the school curriculum is abusing them. But something tells me it comes down to a teacher telling young children about which body parts arouse them the most. I don't know about you, but if I were in charge of that school, my reaction would not be to charge abuse to whichever child put his hand up and said, "Miss, I don't care about your favorite flavor of carpet to munch. I just want to play football." How dare you? It's not Miss. It's Zim. Invader Zim to you. I knew it. Yeah, no. My reaction would be, you're telling these kids what? Excuse me, I have a phone call to make. Please collect all your stuff, put all your rainbow flags into a box, and proceed to the front entrance of the building where the police will be waiting for you. Preferably with a goddamn wood chipper, you raging nonce. But of course, I would never be in charge of a school. I'm a man. And I would never be allowed in a school. I'm a man. And thank God for that. I fucking hate schools. I always have. They are basically mental asylums, but sort of in reverse. It's where healthy children are sent to become broken, miserable husks of human beings. Homeschool your children, folks. Do it yesterday. Or just don't school them at all. Let them play outside with their friends. Anything's better than sending them to an asylum run by lunatics and nonces and lunatic nonces. Or just don't have kids. It's still an option. I, for one, wake up every day and thank the Lord I have been spared this fate. I can't imagine how stressful it is in this day and age. But y'all do you. Y'all, whatever. Don't listen to me. After all, the only people who could speak on this subject are the people on one side of the argument, however that works. So, yeah, I guess I'll shut up.
I just can't help but think that when Pink Floyd said we don't need no education, the British school system took them seriously.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is when I saw this story, I just had to do a double take, and I looked to see if it was on a parody site too, because I know that there's been other instances where zero tolerance meets gender ideology, and you get a 5-year-old being suspended and police being called because he kissed a girl on the cheek. But I think this is kind of a step beyond, and I'll bet you it probably was like you said. The kid looked at a teacher who is a biological male and said "Mister," and the teacher objected and treated it as a situation where instead of dealing with the child who is going to, in the course of dealing with any individual, make social faux pas by spotting things that are real and true, like the little kid at the store the other day that pointed and said, "That man's in a wheelchair." Yes, honey, that man's in a wheelchair. He can't walk, right? But that's why he's in a wheelchair. And of course, everybody's embarrassed, but the kid just said something that was true. And it's not embarrassing to be in a wheelchair. It's just a thing that is unusual. So the kid is making an observation. They're not malicious. They're just saying what they see. And they haven't learned not to say what they see when it's stuff that the rest of us have learned to not have concern over. The only time we worry about whether or not that man's in a wheelchair is if we have to get him out of the store quickly because it's on fire, or if he has difficulty going through the checkout because they designed it to be too narrow. And then, you provide assistance. Well, when we're dealing with somebody who is a biological male in a dress, as long as that person's not being violent or getting in your face or demanding that you do things that you don't consider appropriate for him to demand that you do, then you leave them alone. But in this situation, you do have to question, why was being a preschool teacher in a classroom what this person wanted to do? Because if I was going to be dedicated to that, right, my goal would be to nurture the kids. And if I was in a situation where I'm female and I'm in a dress and somebody says, you look like a man, or that lady is really fat, right? Yes, I am, but it's not polite to talk about that. We already know by looking at me, and we don't make those kind of comments because sometimes it hurts people's feelings. And that's enough to tell a little kid, right? And those details are important to notice, but they're not important to talk about. And you might even have a whole conversation with the classroom about the difference between details that are important to talk about and details that you just keep in mind because you know them, but you don't have to say anything because everyone can see it, and it can be upsetting for people to talk about them. And if somebody who had a loving and caring and nurturing, kind attitude toward children was in that situation, even if their feelings were hurt, like y'all can call me fat all you want, my feelings aren't going to be hurt because you're saying the truth, and I'm autistic, so it's not the same. It doesn't work that way. But even if the teacher is somebody who's like just breaking on the inside from having a truth they don't like to think about said about themselves, it's still, if your dedication in life is to caring about and nurturing and guiding children in how to be good, kind, loving adults who know their alphabet and their numbers and all that, this is the worst possible response you could have to a kid saying Mr. instead of Mrs. or Ms. To a biological male in a dress. Right? This is not going to help the child change in the way that you want. This is going to teach the child that people like you are mean and abusive and should be avoided and distrusted, and certainly don't deserve any of their regard, right? Any of their respect, because you're so fragile and so easily butthurt that you reacted to a 5-year-old like you would react to a 50-year-old at work, or something along those lines. This individual who did this does not belong in education and should get a job somewhere else. Let somebody who actually has the patience to nurture kids and teach them the things that are in the curriculum, and also how to interact with people in a polite and socially adept manner, instead of somebody who's going to throw a temper tantrum because their emotions are not being coddled by the 5-year-olds.
I just think that if there is a charge of homophobia or transphobia on a 4-year-old boy or girl, but I'm guessing it was probably a boy, it wasn't coming from another student. It was
No.
coming from a teacher. And they either became busybodies and presumed that the person was being transphobic even though they were just a child, and they were like, presumably misgendering another student, or, and I think this is the more likely outcome, or the more likely scenario, which I looked into. Unfortunately, because this involves minors, there is no identities are being revealed about anything, so we can't ever know for sure, at least not at this point. But what I'm guessing is that the teacher was someone who was identifying as, outside the norm, and the student made the terrible, awful mistake of correctly assuming their gender, like based on biology. Because I think a 4-year-old boy or a girl knows the difference between a boy and a girl. Like they can tell because they see the faces of men and women differently, even as babies, right? Like they have a different response to the mother's face versus the father's face, and so on. So they can probably tell. So my guess is that the teacher was offended either on behalf of a student that didn't ask them to be, or for themselves, and reprimanded the student because they get a sense of control or power over a fucking child. And yeah, Mike, if a kid knows what sexual orientation means, something really, really weird is afoot, and people should get their hard drives looked at, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and if it did come down to a 4-year-old misgendering the sexual orientation of another 4-year-old, it circles back to the same problem. Why would a 4-year-old have any sense of their own sexual orientation?
Right.
They should know what the fuck that is.
Super weird.
So I have a very distinct memory of a bunch of kids in my neighborhood bullying one of the boys in my neighborhood because he was a little bit different, by calling him a girl and a woman and stuff like that. And he was, when he was older, he was bisexual. So there was definitely some differences with him than there were, but not all gay men or bisexual men have anything about them that could be considered effeminate. Some of the most butch guys, some of the most rowdy, manly men I've met have been very, very gay, and you wouldn't know by talking to them unless you asked them about their relationships, right? But it's possible if it was another kid. I don't think it was another kid, but it's possible if it was another kid that it was an incident like that. But even then, the conversation should not have been about gender, because bullying is something that kids have to learn not to do. And the conversation there should be about conflict management and kindness and getting along with the people around you, and the things that you discuss when it's anti-bullying. If you single out gender issues and make them a special, unique thing with regard to anti-bullying, what you get is a situation where gender issues become a thing that can be used for cry bullying. And I hope it wasn't that kind of situation, because now all those kids have just learned that if you want to bully another person, you use gender issues, and specifically gender identity issues, and you cry bully.
Yep. All right, well, let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments. I got a couple super chows I'm going to read out, and then we'll move on to the next story. So Michael Emmerich Winberg gives us $5 and said, this was like at the start of the show, "Nice job, Mr. Martinez. I was rating, and your news got me killed when I gave a double take." Well, then it looks like my April Fool's thing worked on somebody. I don't know what that says about you, but there you go. Meredith G gives us $5. Thank you, Meredith G. And she says HBR News 496 honey for the Badgers. And then I got another 5 from the One Good Man. Welcome to the show, the One Good Man. I'm glad that you found like the time to grace us with your presence. As we all know, the One Good Man is, in fact, the One Good Man.
I was the One Good Man. How could this be possible?
Yeah, right. And he says, "I am carrying Elon Musk's baby as I haven't got a womb to gestate the fetus. I'm going to keep it in a box." And you're going to put that box in another box and then mail that box to yourself. And
there
then
you go.
Smash it with a hammer.
We were all born from a box. When you
Yes, we did come
that
from
is
boxes.
true.
We all came from boxes. Hey, look, I'm sorry. I'm confused because I'm hormonal. Because carrying a baby does all kinds of weird stuff to your system. So anyway, let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments. We're going to move on to the next story. And we're going to top... Does this next story top the last one? There is a bit of a relationship. So here we have Let's just watch this. Let me read this and then I'll play this video, okay? So, as of April 1st, 2025, a Fox News article reports that someone named JD Terrapin Holt, a member of Oregon's Health Authority, the OHA Consumer Advisory Council, identifies as a turtle and uses they, them, and turtle pronouns. I just thought this was weird. Holt announced this during a virtual meeting on December 20th, 2024, introducing themselves as part of the council advising OHA. This is the Oregon Health Authority. Okay, this isn't just a weirdo. This is someone with state power. Advising OHA Director Dr. Sejal Hathi on mental health policies. The OCAC, established by state statute and appointed by Hathi, who was selected by Governor Tina Kotek, includes about 24 members tasked with reviewing and recommending behavioral health strategies. The article notes that turtle gender is described on Gender Wiki, it's a real gender, as a xenogender tied to a connection with turtles. OHA defends Holt's inclusion, stating that all council members bring valued perspectives from lived experiences with behavioral health challenges. The story has sparked some reactions, with some questioning Holt's role in mental health policy due to her identity. What do you got a problem with turtles? Okay, so let me just play this clip. See if you can guess which one of these people is the turtle gender.
Hello, everybody. It's JD with turtle and pronouns. Pronouns are turtle and they, them. Hello, everybody. It's JD. I use they, them, or turtle for pronouns. Hello, everybody. It's JD, they, them, and turtle for pronouns in the Springfield, Eugene area.
So, yeah, that.
Yeah.
It's tempting to say it's the one who looks like a turtle, but they all look a little bit reptilian, don't they?
Yes.
The question is, are they not turtly enough for the turtle club?
Have you ever seen a turtle's penis? I just want to. I mean, maybe they're female turtles.
YouTube videos that pop up every so often.
Horrifying.
Like, you think it's going to be this cute animal video, and it's not.
It's like a mushroom cloud. Well, it's like a mushroom far bigger than you would expect to come out of a turtle. Don't watch it. It's one of the most disturbing things I've ever seen.
And also, if you're going to put a video of animal dick on YouTube, please title it so that the rest of us know that it's not going to be cute and funny and we don't want to watch it.
And I know what y'all are thinking. The first words of this write-up were, once again, as of April the 1st. And yeah, this is the one day of the year when we're expected to apply Poe's law to everything we see and hear. But if we've learned anything over the past 10 years, it's that every day might as well be April the 1st. It's getting so ridiculous that we can't tell anymore. From any given person's perspective, it feels like we're in the Truman Show. And they're not even subjecting us to a facsimile of reality. It feels like we're being subjected to an experiment. Like, how ridiculous can it get before the subject in question, the patient in question, finally starts to think, wait, this is not real. This can't possibly be real. The meta of this reality has been established. Some people adhere to a religious worldview where certain morals are held as sacrosanct, and some people adhere to the so-called Enlightenment, where certain logical apprehensions are also held as sacrosanct. For all the arguments that have taken place in the last few millennia between the secular mindset and the religious mindset, they can surely both agree that you can't just say you're a thing and therefore become that thing. It goes against anything and everything that can even be ascertained by any intellectual approach to the world. So how the fuck has this happened? Well, it happened because it was linchpinned by a certain gender ideology, the notion that men and women should not exist as differentiable entities. Even the original communism couldn't bury this agent of chaos in the general public in terms of, class or wealth. But feminism did just that. It convinced everyone that the difference between men and women should not exist. By all accounts, it does exist, but these mental motherfuckers insisted it shouldn't exist, and thereby they convinced everyone that it doesn't. That's why it started with a man is nothing and a woman is nothing. And because it wasn't rejected on its face like it should have been, it buried itself in our culture like the parasite it is. And it began dissolving everything else that we once knew as true. And this is why we at Honey Badger Radio focus on the head vampire. And we've been focusing on it since 11 years ago, give or take. Because it's the head fucking vampire. Even in the heart of the communist empire, it never occurred to anyone that a human can be a turtle. It was far too ridiculous, even for Lenin or Stalin. And it's because humanity is not all that susceptible to propaganda along the lines of the rich and the poor. But what we've learned over the past century or so is that humanity is extremely susceptible to propaganda along the lines of men and women. We're not all that concerned about the gap between the rich and the poor, but by default, we are desperately concerned to make sure that we're not oppressing women. And we give negative shits about whether or not we're oppressing men. So if you can establish an ideology, a version of communism, wherein women are being oppressed by men, let alone the notion that women are oppressed by men everywhere and always have been, you can create a constant state of moral panic from which you can spawn any other kind of identity crisis. That's why anything goes at this point, because these ideologues have spent a century or so shitting inside our most fundamental understanding of reality, that men and women are fundamentally different. If you can pull that thread out of our brains, you can pull any other thread. And that's what happens. So please, folks, if you want to know why people are identifying as terrapins and getting away with it, it's because men can and long since have identified as women and vice versa. If you allow that, you allow anything. You need to get over this bizarre, unfounded, unscientific notion that men oppress women everywhere and always have. Otherwise, the seeds will keep germinating these creeping ivies. Like, I know that's what we would say because that's our speciality, but it's our speciality because we're right. We've always been right. That's why we've been doing this since the rest of you were in diapers, the online equivalent of diapers. I mean, that's why we've been banished to the shadow realm, because we were right first. Nobody's listening to us, but whatever. At least we're still here saying it, and we'll keep saying it. Honey Badger don't give a shit. Leave a like and a comment, and don't forget to share, because sharing is caring.
Sharing is caring.
Something that struck me when I saw this is these people are the ones deciding what is right in terms of availability of assistance programs, what gets funded in terms of assistance programs, what types of programs get approved, what styles of therapy, what the therapists are allowed to promote, and so on, with regard to helping people with mental illnesses make their way in the world without being in conflict with the whole rest of the culture, or without being socially and economically paralyzed by their mental health condition. So it can be rough for people with more easily understood conditions like depression that just make you a lot less motivated, that can attack your self-esteem, that can make it hard for you to find happiness, that can cause suicidality and stuff. The supports the individual needs are pretty straightforward in terms of that disorder, right? But there are mental health conditions that cause disorders of perception, where your brain doesn't tell you the truth about what you're perceiving around you. The signals come in, then they get mixed up, and then you heard something different than the person said to you, or you heard the guy on the television talking directly to you, or you see somebody in the room who isn't there, or you don't see something in the room that is there. And that's an oversimplification, but it can be very difficult to navigate your environment if you cannot accurately perceive your environment. And it can be very difficult to navigate your culture if you cannot accurately perceive the environment in which your engagement with your culture is taking place. And especially if you cannot accurately perceive your interactions with other people and the other people themselves and so on, right? So if you get somebody who is so entrenched in the idea that perception is reality that they have decided that their beliefs, their desires are perceptions, and those are reality, they really should not be in charge of your treatment. If you have, say, schizophrenia or um, a schizoaffective disorder or any disorder that causes you to, whether it's perception of physical details or perception of other people's motivations, inability to understand what you're experiencing, inability to understand what other people are experiencing. The person who thinks that whatever they want is reality should not be deciding what kind of therapy you can get. That individual is going to be upset if a therapist it tries to help you understand that sometimes things you see aren't real, or things are not as you see them, or things that you conclude based on your perceptions are wrong, and you can be wrong about the reality around you. And in being wrong about the reality around you, you might behave in a way that's contradictory to what everybody else sees, right? You might even put yourself at odds with people and get yourself in trouble. And this is the norm now, that these people are getting involved with the field of psychology and psychiatry. They're either getting involved by getting a degree in the subject and actually becoming the therapist or the administrator or the person, deciding who and what gets funded and so on, or they're becoming activists and they're getting on boards like this. And they don't even have to have any kind of degree. They don't necessarily have to be that knowledgeable. They just have to talk about experience. There was I watched some of the other videos that were highlighted in regard to the Oregon Health Authority, and there was one person who identified herself as running down her credentials. One of the things that she gave was lived experience, and her lived experience it was with uh, the actual patient being the patient, not the caregiver in terms of this kind of mental health condition, right? So now you have the inmates running the asylum. Now you have a situation where, let's say, Bob has a disorder that affects his perception. It makes it difficult for him to read. It makes it difficult for him to receive and follow instructions in the workplace. So it makes it difficult for him to hold a job. And he's on the border between being functionally disabled and being employable and capable of self support. And these people are making the decisions on what kind of assistance Bob can get. And they decide that you're not allowed to treat Bob's perceptions as if they are not reality. And suddenly, instead of helping Bob deal with All right, how do I judge my perceptions? How do I get better at receiving the instructions I need to do my job? How do I maintain my employability? It's, I can't do anything because the rest of the world is wrong. And now Bob is disabled, right? Instead of being able to find employment and sustain himself, he now has to rely on other people, and he has to trust that his society, his community is going to take care of him because he won't be able to take care of himself. They've just robbed Bob of his independence. That kind of is just affecting Bob and the taxpayer, right? Well, what if Bob needs that help in order to maintain a level of emotional stability? And what if Bob has violent tendencies when he doesn't maintain a level of emotional stability, and that's taken away from him, right? Bob may be pushed into criminality in that situation, and he may hurt somebody, and that individual did nothing to these people, and yet they caused that individual's injury. And then it becomes more of a community problem. And there is a whole spectrum of things that can happen because somebody has these type of disorders, um, and they need help, they need guidance, and they need medications or treatment, or other supports, maybe somebody to just stop by and make sure they're okay every day. And they don't get it because these people uh, can't abide by the idea that your perception isn't necessarily always reality. It's one of the biggest mistakes that we've had as a society, among various groups of people, whether it's business entities in the psychiatric treatment world, um, education entities, journalistic entities, is the acceptance of the idea that perception is reality. Right? Just because you perceive something to be a certain way doesn't mean that's what's true. And just because you don't notice something doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And this person that identifies as a turtle has gotten to the point of failing to understand that just because you want something to be real doesn't mean it is. It's the worst type of person to have in charge of providing care, approving care for other people who need assistance in determining what is real. And this is going to have a really profound effect on men because more often than not, when someone falls through the cracks and becomes disabled, or and ends up at odds with the law and the community because of their mental health condition, it's a man. Men more often become homeless because of this. Men more often end up injured or suicidal, self-injuring because of this. Because they're not like women who will show off their scars. I'm a cutter. Look at me. I need the attention. They will hide it. They will cover it up. They'll be the guy that you see wearing a turtleneck in July because they don't want you to know that they have scars, right? And they won't get help. So this is a huge issue, and it's funny, to laugh at Turtle Girl, and I could joke about it and everything, and like, for here henceforth I identify as a squirrel. In fact, I identify specifically as that cartoon Foamy the Squirrel. So if you don't use my proper pronouns and worship me, I will hit you all with my squirrely wrath. But the reality is, this is incredibly insidious and dark, and we really should be deeply concerned if this is happening in Oregon. Could be happening in your state, right? Could be happening in your county. Something to take note of. And it is something that our civil servants ought to be addressing, because this should never happen.
No, this is a product of toxic positivity where people are so open and so, well, they claim to be so open minded that they will accept anything that someone puts forward as an identity. And so I would say that when someone says something obviously delusional, no one is saying that we should be necessarily cruel unless they bring it on themselves by essentially like demanding that you essentially rearrange truth itself to like make them comfortable. But this only happens because people encourage it. They embrace it and they say, "Oh yeah, 100%, I'm with you. Let's address you as a turtle and give you they them pronouns." This is toxic positivity. This is like the sort of like generally open-minded liberal worldview taken to its like complete conclusion. Like no matter what you say, no matter how against truth it is, no matter how anti-reality it is, we're going to go along with it because the last thing we want to do is look like a bad person. And that's really what it comes down to. These people don't do this because they genuinely care about someone else's well-being. They do this because they're trying to avoid looking like a bad person, because they're so convinced that they are really good people that they will lie to themselves and lie to people that are asking them to lie on their behalf about their identity in order to protect the perception of their own like negative judgment. So everyone is sitting on that panel with this woman and they're going along with it because those people think that that makes them better people, even if it drives this woman to suicide, which could happen if she's like so, experiencing so much toxic positivity that no one ever says you're crazy, or no one ever says, actually, you're not a turtle, you're a human being, or whatever, because no one has the balls to do it, because they don't want to tell the truth, because what they want to do is they want to just say, whatever you say is fine, and I'm just going to go along with it. It's just like when a woman, like you have a bunch of girls and they're at a podcast and the host says, why don't you guys rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10? And they all rate themselves and each other a 10. That is the same thing. It's like, I don't want to disagree. I don't want to go against the grain. I don't want to rock the boat. So I'm just going to say whatever is going to like give me more acceptance and more favor with this group of people, even if I am lying to them. Like if I tell you, yeah, you're 400 pounds, but just eat whatever you want. No one is allowed to judge you or whatever for how you eat or how you live. And these people will, I mean, if they like literally want to believe it, they will destroy themselves. And there are lots of, like, for example, body positive influencers who have died because they were just like trying to convince the world and themselves, and they were living in like an endless positive feedback loop of people telling them, oh no, you're perfect, beautiful at any size, and then they die of a heart attack or diabetes or whatever, and we're all just supposed to pretend like, well, I don't know how that happened, that came from nowhere. It's like, no, she was not. You weren't telling them the truth. Like, these people should know. If you love someone, you tell them the truth. You're not just nice to them. That's not love. That's just like you protecting yourself. So, yeah, I mean, like, it's serious, but it's like, it's on these other people. Like they have a role to play in that.
I feel like I have to push against this notion of toxic positivity, because it's like Gad Saad's notion of suicidal empathy.
Oh, okay.
Like it's you're giving them too much positivity, like like they're just trying too hard to be positive. No, they hate their own people.
Mm-hmm.
Like this isn't some corruption of positivity. It's just negativity. It's just negativity towards your own people.
Mm-hmm.
It just manifests as positivity towards the other people. Just like toxic xenophobia is exactly what it sounds like. It's just you hate people who aren't like you. and yeah, there is the equal and opposite reaction, as Newton would call it. It's just you hate your own people, and to call it suicidal empathy or toxic positivity is just to play into their own paradigm, that they're just being positive, that they're just being nice, and that they're just being nice to a fault. No, they're being nasty to a fault. It's just that they're being nasty in a direction that we're not trained to understand. Like, it's perfectly possible to just hate your own people. It's perfectly possible to hate your neighbor, but to love the people as far away as you from possible. It's like you love the isolated tribes of Sentinel Island or fucking Papua New Guinea or stuff. Like,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
we don't hate our own people. We just love the other people. No, you don't. You are not full of love. These people are not full of love, and it's not a toxic kind of love. It's not, a kind of love that's gone too far. No, it's a kind of hate. It's a kind of hate that we just don't recognize as a kind of hate, so we keep calling it a kind of love. It's not. It's just fucking hate of your own kind, and it's just so difficult to get across to people that such a thing can even exist, or even that it's a modern phenomenon. No, it's not. It's a phenomenon that has existed for all of time. It's just it only seems to manifest in civilizations and indeed empires who have reached the conclusion that they've gone too far, and so now that our empire and our civilization has gone too far, the only solution is to hate our own civilization, our own empire, our own people. Like, no, none of it's not toxic positivity. It's just it's toxic negativity towards our own people. Like, I don't
No,
I
yeah.
don't
I
know.
mean, I know. I get it. I
Go,
think I
just
I
go
just
look up
use
the
the
song. Just go
the.
look up a particular song by Three Dog Night, Easy to Be Hard. Read the lyrics, right?
Mhm.
I mean, just the chorus alone, and especially people who care about strangers, who care about evil and social injustice. Do you only care about the bleeding crowd? How about a needy friend? We all need a friend. And the whole point of that song is people who fail to spot the people around them as human beings and look to everywhere else. Look to issues, look to people in a distance. The starving children in Africa are more important than your own kids
Yeah.
in your own home. And if you ever have seen the musical Hair, that song has a place in that musical where there's a hippie who has run off to join a bunch of other hippies, whose their whole lifestyle is running around getting high, talking about social issues and protesting and stuff. And he has abandoned his family to do this. And his wife comes and begs him to come home because his children need him. And he says, "You don't understand. I'm doing great things," right? Basically, I'm paraphrasing here, but basically telling her that this lifestyle makes a difference in the world and it's more important than his family. Um, and he doesn't see a need to come home. And she sings this song, walking away from him after realizing that, her pleas have fallen on deaf ears and he's not coming home. And that's basically what we do in our civilization right now, right? We worry about the bigger picture. We try to be good people while not trying to do anything good or important in the real world.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. I don't think it. I guess like the way I would say is that I wasn't. What I meant by toxic positivity is it isn't real. It is exactly as Mike describes it. These people don't do this because they care about the person. They do this because they want to be seen as good people. So
Mhm.
it doesn't have any depth to it. It isn't actually love. right? It just looks a bit like it, but it isn't. It is not. There's nothing about it that's genuine. So yeah, I mean, I see what Mike is coming from. I would say that it's probably not the right way to put it, but that is what I was getting at saying. But anyway, let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments. I got one more story we're gonna get to, and this could create a bit of a rant. But all right, speaking of ninjas and turtles,
It absolutely will create a rant.
yes, I know. All right, so speaking of ninjas and turtles, I was trying to like figure out some way of doing the Ninja Turtle song with that woman's pronouns, but I couldn't be bothered. So anyway, but we do have a story that tail ends right into it. Shredder did nothing wrong. On March 27th, 2025, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer announced a ban on ninja swords effective August 1st, 2025 as part of Ronin's Law. That's not a joke. I know you're thinking of Ronins like the Master of the Samurai, but no, it's actually named after 16-year-old Ronin Kanda, who was killed with such a weapon in 2022. The ban makes it illegal to process, manufacture, import, or sell ninja swords, defined as blades between 14 and 24 inches with a straight cutting edge and a Tanto-style point. So specific. Starting August 1st, possession in private carries a penalty of up to 6 months in prison, set to increase to 2 years under the Crime and Policing Bill currently in Parliament. Carrying any weapon in public already incurs up to 4 years in prison. A surrender scheme from July 1st to July 31st of 2025 allows owners to hand over their ninja swords for compensation if you have any ninja swords lying around, guys. But only for purchases made before March 27, 2025, with market value claims requiring receipts or a default £5 per sword with proof of ownership. The move addresses or attempts to address UK's knife crime crisis with 50,973 sharp instrument offenses recorded in England and Wales in the year ending June 2024, and a 41% rise since 2011. Ronin's mother, Pooja Kanda, and advocacy groups like Ben Kinsella Trust supported the ban, arguing ninja swords have no place in society beyond outside of like feudal Japan, like in the during the time of the Sengoku period. The Labour government under Starmer aims to have knife crime within a decade, following earlier bans on zombie knives. That's a thing. I don't know what a zombie knife is. And machetes in September of 2024, and introducing measures like two-step verification for online knife sales and fines for platforms failing to remove knife crime content. I'm waiting for the law of banning Zweihanders or like rapiers. Like there's so many different swords. But anyway, so that's where we are.
We don't want to live in a rapier culture.
We're not going to address the ninjas, just the ninja swords. Look, anyway, go ahead.
You know, when we found out that ICMI 2016 was going to be in London, my parents did not want me to go. They were very concerned that I might be attacked and killed by a ninja. It was
what about ninja magic? Are you guys gonna be able to stop ninja magic? What about shurikens? What about throwing stars? Is that
they
next?
were just absolutely petrified that I might be the target of a ninja attack.
Nunchucks have been banned. Nunchucks have been banned since like 20-30 years ago. For some reason, they banned nunchucks long before they banned swords. Apparently, nunchucks are worse. I'm not quite sure why.
In my whole life, I've met several nuns. I grew up in a community that had a rather large Catholic population. None of them were named Chuck. That's a very unusual name for a nun.
Oh, you.
You know I had to.
Womp womp.
Yeah,
We used to play this game with stars, by the way. We had ninja stars that somebody had made those that in like a shop class or something, because they weren't
out of paper,
stars, but they were.
Oh, okay.
No,
they were metal. Way to make them out of paper.
Laugh at that, and there will
they
be
were
several who will probably be
and
quite indignant. I am not indignant, because this is indicative of the bad manners of a lot of chauvinist ladies.
Sorry, that was
Once upon a time, I used to have the capability of, like, I had better eyesight than I have now, and we'll say that. But I used to have the capability of anything that came at my face, I could hit it, as long as it wasn't coming from above my head, because then I couldn't tell how far away it was. But if it was coming for me straight on, I was really good at it. And so my mom really freaked out about this when she caught us doing it. But the guys would throw them at me and I would slap them away, and they just thought that was the coolest thing since sliced bread. And mom came out of the house, and my mom was actually, her voice was deeper than mine when she was upset. Normally, she was a tenor, and this time she became a soprano, and I think she hurt her throat. And then we weren't allowed to play with the Ninja Stars anymore. They had to get put in a display case and put up on my brother's wall. But we had all kinds of stuff. Like, we had a machete. It was up on the wall also, from Guatemala when my grandparents were missionaries there. We had we had a gun in the house. We had all kinds of knives in the house for different things. None of us ever really harmed each other with any of that stuff. We used to beat the hell out of each other for fun, but not really with those things. But the Ninja Stars we did throw at each other. And as kids, like, we recognized that it's the individual. Like, when we got in trouble, we didn't try to pretend that the stars made us do it. We were okay. We won't play with those like that anymore, right? But as adults, people don't seem to get the reality that there is no weapons ban that you can do that is going to prevent people who have the tendency to use violence to get what they want or address their conflicts. It's not going to stop them from finding a way to hurt other people. Okay? There isn't any level of weapons ban that will address that problem, because it's not caused by the weapons. It's caused by the mentality. And the mentality isn't organic. It has causes. And the reason that you see your leaders turning to weapons bans, they know that's not going to work. All right. They don't really believe any of the things
You're
that
giving
they're
them
saying.
too much credit.
They
don't any of
know
this.
that when they try to ban this weapon or that weapon, and they tell you, oh, it's so that we'll get rid of this type of violence, they're not. They're lying. They're just bald-faced lying to you. They don't want to address the causes of the mentality that leads to violent behavior, because those causes are things they make money from. They make money supporting fatherless homes. They make money supporting an education system where the kids are taught that perception is reality and that you can't contradict people, and cry bullying is okay, and nobody's allowed to be told no unless they're, a straight white male, right? They make money on all of that. And the other reason is because those of you who don't have a tendency to deal with every little conflict and every little desire you have by using violence to achieve your goals, they're afraid that at some point in the future, after years and years of the abuses that they engage in, after years and years of taking your money and giving it to organizations that teach children to have sex, or organizations that push fathers out of homes so children can't be protected from those other organizations, right? That you're going to rise up and you're going to stop them. And if you can't vote them out because they outlaw the candidates that oppose them, that might do what you prefer, that is, recognize human rights and human responsibilities, that you might actually finally decide to resort to violence. And they don't want you to be armed. They don't care about the violence that you're facing from your neighbors that have a tendency to deal with their conflicts and their desires using violence. They only care to make sure that you can't resist.
Indeed. I don't know why anyone's surprised by this story, other than by the revelation that any kind of sword hasn't already been banned in the UK. As far as I know, HEMA swords or daggers have already been banned. That's historical European martial arts swords. Broadswords, bastard swords, Zweihanders, messers, rondels, rapiers, etc. I'm not even sure if I'm allowed to say rapiers. Grapiers, I should say. Scimitars, I would imagine, are not banned because that would be Islamophobic. It's only due to cultural tolerance that katanas have not been banned for all this time. I realize that the katana is a samurai sword, but I don't quite know the difference between the samurai katana and a ninja katana. I mean, the Japanese have used nothing but katanas for many centuries. I guess ninjas just sound worse than samurais. Maybe because ninjas were assassins and samurais were warriors. That's why the British authorities had to change it to Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles. But we never even got Samurai Pizza Cats. They didn't know what to change that to. So it just didn't even get imported in the first place. A lot of you will be going, "What, Mike? Samurai Pizza Cats? The fuck are you talking about?" Yeah, no, that was a thing too. It's just no less bizarre sounding than Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It just never really took off in the same way, presumably because
People know what that is, don't they?
I'm not in Britain. I didn't discover it until I went
Oh
to.
well, yeah. I suppose if you didn't get it,
simply because the art style was a little bit too anime in the Samurai Pizza Cats. The West was like, okay, dumb that shit down until it's Pokemon, and then we'll buy it. But biker mice from Mars, oh hell yeah, they're just using laser guns. There's nothing offensively violent about laser guns. That's fine. That won't be offensive until British people start using them regularly. I mean, we do have a space laser now, but the British people aren't allowed to use it, just the British government, so it's fine. And Japanese swords weren't considered offensive until Keir Starmer got the memo that it's okay to discriminate against Asians now. After all, Asians work hard, they earn high wages, they have robust family values. So yeah, fuck them. They are a danger to the communist agenda. Now we can ban their culture, like we banned our own culture a fucking long time ago. Of course, if you arrive in the UK on a dinghy across the English Channel, you can carry any sword you like. You can carry any laser gun you like. You don't have to go through any metal detectors like they do at airports or anything like that. No one's going to pat you down looking for any machetes you might have concealed in your trouser pocket, or you just dual wielding in both hands when you get off the dinghy, or anything you happen to be hiding inside that 10-year-old boy you're innocently escorting into the country. It's fine. It would be racist to go about frisking you like you're doing anything wrong. No, come on. We'll do anything we can to keep you safe by banning British people from owning any teaspoon that looks like it tapers to a dangerous point. This is your friendly weekly reminder, folks, that the UK is fucked, ladies and gentlemen. The UK, much like myself, is not able to act as an admirable role model, only as a horrible warning, a cautionary tale, a chilling vision of things to come. But that's still a useful thing to be. I'm clinging on to that as a reason to go on living. Remember us! Avenge us before it's too late. Or if it's already too late, just remember us. I don't know how many empires have to fall in the same way before people wise up as to how and why this happens. But I'll remind you once again, it's because we became rich enough that we could afford to hate men. And it didn't occur to us that hating men would turn us into a bunch of pusillanimous pansies. All right, you get the idea. Don't hit like, don't hit subscribe, don't hit the notification bell. None of it does anything, and so on.
All right. Hannah, did you want to say anything else?
Well, I could remind people that just because something is designated as not a weapon doesn't mean it's not a weapon.
Yeah.
For instance, one of my dumbest and worst instances of violence, like I always tell my friends, don't come up and deliberately startle me from behind. You know how, like, when you're young, it's fun to sneak up behind somebody and scare them, yell boo or whatever. And I was on a university campus where there was a nice little wooded area between my dormitory and my classes. And I was carrying my camera around as part of my campus job. And one of my buddies did not listen to that. And it had only been maybe a year and a half since I had experienced a particularly violent assault from people because of my associations at the time. And so I was in a state of heightened worry from that. And then we'd had a bunch of incidents on campus where girls were spreading a rumor that there was a guy running around looking in the windows and coming into the dorms at night. There'd never been any evidence of it, but they scared the hell out of everybody, right? And so I'm walking through this area. It's between light posts. In the middle of it, it gets pretty dark. And this dumbass jumps out from behind me and grabs me and yells. And in the moment, I panicked. I had my camera over my shoulder, and it was hanging down enough that I had some swing capability with it, and I had my monopod in my other hand. And I ended up having to skip class and take him to the hospital for stitches in his head, because I hit him with both before I realized who he was and that it was not an actual malicious attack. And neither one of those things is classified as a weapon, right? But the monopod, I had a mount on it. It's a particular shape for being able to turn the camera every way you want to, turn it sideways, up and down, everything. And so it had a lot of little screws on it to be able to loosen this part or that part so that you could turn the camera one direction and then tighten it and hold it there and so on. And those dug into his scalp pretty bad. And so you don't really have to, you don't have to carry a knife. You don't have to carry a gun. You don't have to carry any object that the police would look at and say, this is a weapon, in order to be dangerous to someone. All you have to do is be the kind of person who hits when they panic. Like, hits first and asks questions later when they panic. You know, like, I don't hit people when I get mad. You know, like, I write really pathetic anger poetry. It's awful. Or I write really angry articles if I've got something valid to lecture over and publish them. You know, like, if you don't believe me, read my article, Fuck You, Amy Schumer, in the Honey Badger Brigade blog. But I don't hit people when I get angry. Because that's useless. It doesn't fix the problem, right? It only is useful in self-defense. And so this idea, again, you can't eliminate violence by eliminating weapons. Any object within reach is a weapon when somebody is determined to do something violent, or it has a disorder that causes them to engage in violence when they're scared.
Yeah.
Just a point.
No, I mean,
There's never trust your politicians to be trying to do something effective when they do this.
Your politicians are a weapon.
Yes.
Far more violent and far more destructive than anything you could possibly wield in your hand. I don't understand why people don't understand this.
Well, yeah. For the record, the ninja toe is what the ninja sword is actually called. Ninja toe. And it isn't even like a definite thing that it existed, or at least that there is no evidence that this existed before the 20th century. So all of it is alleged, because if it was true, then the ninja would lose its mystique. So therefore, it's called the ninja toe, but we don't even know that they used them. I'm just saying. And it wasn't, even if they did exist, they were considered far lower quality than the katana. So why wouldn't you just use a katana if you had to choose between the two? Anyway, so just a little bit of trivial knowledge about the ninja toe, the ninja sword. All right, so Albatross, I'll get some super chows and stuff, and then we'll wrap it up. Albatross gives us $5 and says the turtle lady is going to get people killed. Probably her herself first, if anything. Nobafan.
No, she's going to keep people killed by their own hand. She's going to vote for policies that are going to change the assistance that is available to people. And there are going to be people that are going to kill themselves because they do not get the support they need to fight against this idea that perception is reality in instances where their perception might be deadly.
Yeah. Nobafan gives us a $1 Rumble rant and says, Ninja, it's never okay to call me a ninja. Same ninja greeting another ninja. What up, my ninja? Thank you. Ninja, please.
Ninja, please. I assume everyone's already done those.
I'm the head ninja in charge. All right. Anyway, if you guys haven't seen it, check out the animated Black Dynamite cartoon. There's a great episode with ninjas in it that are hilarious. But anyway, I got to end the show there. We're going to go now into the Patreon show. And we're going to look at this video from That's Joke called How Invincible Deconstructs Masculinity. So we can get his male feminist take on masculinity and how it needs to further be torn down to make the world safer for women, I guess. All right, so we're going to head over there now. If you guys want to join us, you have to become a badger yourself by going to feedthebadger.com /subscribe to join the club. And hopefully we will see you all in the patron show. I want to thank Mike and Hannah, as always, for joining me on the news show. And I'm going to thank you guys most of all for watching. If you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Hit the bell for notifications. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you guys think about what we discussed on the show today. And please, please, please share this video, because sharing is caring. Thank you guys so much for coming on today's episode of HBR News. Have a very cautious April Fool's Day, and we will see you next Tuesday.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.